Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
Hello again out there in podcast land. It is the Bmore Baseball Podcast. I'm Jerry Coleman. He's the former Oriole, the Oriole Hall of Famer, the 14-year veteran Mike Bordick. Every day we post new content on X, on Facebook, on Instagram. Find us now at the Bmore Ball Pod. That's the Bmore Ball Pod. We're also on YouTube at Bmore Ball Pod. And when you subscribe to our podcast, we've been telling people, and people have been getting those Lido Pizza gift cards. You have to show us evidence that you've subscribed to the podcast, and we'll treat you in kind. Today, we reached episode number 11. Bordy will be joined by former GM and current MLB broadcaster Jim Duquette. We'll also get into whether the Orioles have themselves a southpaw problem. And Dr. Michael Jacobs, our What's Up Doc segment, will be along to discuss the rash of injuries the Orioles have been going through. Nobody's more injured right now than the guys in Birdland. But let's bring in our featured guest. He is sponsored by Pappas Seafood. From crab cakes to seafood classics, they'll deliver straight to your door. 4 locations in the Baltimore area, plus nationwide shipping. Order today at pappascrabcakes.com. It's MLB Radio and former exec Jim Duquette. Jim, it's been a while. So great to catch up with you, and thanks for being on the podcast.
What's going on? Yeah, Jerry, thanks for having me. Bordy, always good to see you. You're looking good as always.
You too, Jim.
Looks like you could still be playing.
I don't know about that.
Now, Jim, I want to start off because we all know about the great expectations for the Orioles coming into this season. You're still tied in around this area and get a vibe for what's going on in Birdland. And right now, at least the way things have started, it doesn't appear they have the horses in the stable to compete with the AL East.
It doesn't right now. I agree with you. You know, a lot of that is, well, some of it is injury related. You can't, you know, in the front office, there's only so much you can hide behind the injuries and say, you know, that's the reason for our problems here early on. This was something that you could diagnose back in the wintertime, right? I mean, you guys saw this too, but you know, you put a lot of your eggs in the basket of Corbin Burns, and not getting him really started this snowball effect, which happens a lot with teams, right? So you don't get this certain player, and so you go down a road of, all right, well, I got to respond by making another move or a couple of moves that maybe isn't quite the same, but we think it'll be good enough. Hence, you know, Charlie Morton, which has not gone well. That experiment, Sugano has been really good. But you know, there are things like that have gone on. Santander not replacing him. You know, knowing that Tyler O'Neill has a history injury. You know, of course he's out. Like there's certain things that I think have been self-inflicted. Now, having said all that, I do think this team is a lot better than the way that they've performed in the first month too. And we all know this. You know, the month of April. While you see some struggles, you can overcome, you know, a bad first month. It's just way more difficult, and it puts a lot of panic with your fan base.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It seems like everybody in the East is kind of bunched up right now. The Yankees don't want to run away with it. The Red Sox have shown some signs, and so have Toronto, but nobody's pulling away. So I think if the Orioles can kind of hold their head above water, but the question mark is, when these guys do start getting healthy, do they still have enough to compete in the East and against everybody else? And how are they going to go about managing pitching? Are they going to have to get rid of some more prospects to get pitching in?
I think they're going to have to, Mike. Yeah, I mean, you know, when you look at the way it's constructed, and you know, big problem is, you know, we know with Grayson Rodriguez, his health has always been an issue, but part of the planning for this winter was, all right, well, we have an potential internal replacement with Rodriguez, you know, that can step into that, you know, that number 1 or number 2 role. And with him being out, in addition to having Burns back, you know, and Eflin, we don't know when Eflin comes back. We think he's going to pitch well. We hope he's going to pitch well. He pitched well last year, but there's a period of time that, you know, you have with a guy like that you have to kind of give him, get his feet underneath him a little bit, you know, hope that he doesn't re-injure the whole you know, knee issues that he's had with it. So, you know, there's some things there that, you know, I think are underlying, you know, in the short term, you can, I think, piece together, even if the starters are going short, you can piece together the success by having a couple of relievers that can give you multiple innings. what concerns me is there's been a slow response early on to some of the, our starters aren't going deeper in the game. Well, we could see that wasn't going to happen, but other teams around the league, what they're doing to combat that is going deeper with their relief core. Let's say a 2 or 3 inning stint with a Suarez. Obviously, his injury really hurts, but where are those guys in response, to the starters going short or getting banged out of the game early? So there's some things inherently with the pitching that look to me like they're an issue long term also. So yes, I think to answer your point, the prospects, I think, if you're going to hoard them, you're going to have to use them to go out and get more pitching, and hope that some of this offensive group, combined, starts to swing it better.
Yeah, I think offensively, I feel like they'll eventually come around. I just think it's such a young group. The question mark is, and this is more of a GM kind of question, do the Orioles have enough optionable pieces to make moves to keep that bullpen healthy? And that's, I think, really important, especially for teams that are trying to rebuild, establish themselves. Bullpens can lock down a team. If you can't option guys, you are in trouble. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a good point too. I think that it's a tricky answer because I like that flexibility. And I think most GMs these days like that flexibility. But also, when you have optionable pitchers, some of that is because they're young, they're inconsistent. There's that growth period that you have to have with young pitchers that. Having them on your roster, while it seems like good because you can, change out parts, sometimes you're going to have some, you're not going to have necessarily the consistency that you're looking for when the bullpen, especially when you're trying to win ball games. So, I do think that it's going to require them potentially to cut ties with a guy or two also, which you don't want to have to do. But again, I'll use the Texas Rangers as an example right now. They're a team that had high expectations coming into, and they've underperformed. And their issue is more offense related than anything. Well, what did Chris Young do? He was aggressive right away. He's already optioned a guy to the minor leagues who's a big leaguer, good major league power hitter, in Jake Berger. He went ahead and just 2 days ago fired their hitting coach who'd been there when they won the World Series. They were bringing up another young player that was down in the minor leagues, Evan Carter, that had been struggling. They're bringing in a new hitting coach, Brett Boone, who we both saw. You played against him. There are dramatic things, and I don't even think it's that dramatic, but there are things that you can do as a front office executive to be aggressive, to basically send a message to guys. Hey, listen, this isn't going to cut it. And if they have to do that, by the way, for offensive guys that are struggling, then so be it. But it requires a little more attention and a little more, I think, aggressiveness than what I've seen so far with the front office.
Yeah, Jim, Mike Elias recently defended manager Brandon Hyde, as did the players. We'll get into that later in the podcast. But with him defending the manager, where's the accountability? I mean, who does the sword fall on?
Well, yeah, I think he's defending him. There's so much blame that you can spread around, right? So, whether it's the manager, whether it's the general manager, whether it's the players, when you have a below average team performing out of the gate, there's never one total issue there. At times Mike has taken and fallen on the sword a couple different times, a couple of the deadlines that didn't go well, a couple years ago when they were saying that they were still in the rebuild when they really were clearly in the postseason mix and probably should have gone for it. And then the last two deadlines where, even last year, I think, or no, 2 years ago, where he said, geez, we didn't think the issue at the deadline was going to be our offense, which it became in the second half. So there are some things that internally you have to look at and evaluate and basically, and I think Mike has done that, and I don't know. I mean, we look at this right now as a roster. Is it the age old question? Is it roster related? Or is it managerial related? And there's probably a combination of both, but I look at it and I go, wow, we kind of knew the pitching wasn't going to be good enough. So is it really Brandon Hyde's fault entirely? No, it's not. So I think that's the issue there. The other thing too, when you're looking at it, people have talked about, let's make a change with Brandon Hyde. In some circles, I'm not saying you guys have, but we've seen this throughout the organization has had back-to-back postseason appearances. If you look around the sport in the last 30 years, I can't think of one team that has gotten to the postseason in back-to-back years that has made a change with their manager during the season the following year. That doesn't mean, by the way, at the end of the year, if they have a below-average season and things don't go well, that he's not on the potential chopping block. But no team, no organization does that. And it's not going to happen in Baltimore either.
More of the Bmore Baseball podcast coming right up. At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades. And now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you, too. If you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery, you could win instantly or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every Grand Slam. Sounds like a ball if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
The Be More Baseball podcast welcomes Relief Shop. Shop, Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu, located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop. It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer. Or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone. Exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955. Proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time. And now, back to the Be More Baseball podcast.
Yeah, from a philosophy standpoint, though, and I think this is pretty interesting, and we've talked about this before, the Orioles have gathered their nucleus as young hitters.
Right.
From a GM standpoint, would you rather have young pitchers or young hitters?
Oh man, I think for me, the young pitchers, I feel like you can ease into the major league level a little bit better. There's you can get by with dominating stuff. If they have a bad start, you can make an adjustment between starts. 5 days is a long, as you know, from playing. 5 days is a long time. We sit here and go, wow, last Wednesday was the last start for the starter, yesterday. Like, there's a lot that happened in those 5 or 6 days on the offensive side of things. And offensive hitters, when they go through a 3-day 0 for 12, 0 for 14, man, that weighs on young hitters, and it's really difficult sometimes for guys to handle that. So if I'm looking at it, again, this is in a vacuum. I'd rather push, and we used to do this too. I think you still see it to some degree. Push young pitchers that rather than pushing young hitters. And again, that's more of a general answer, but I think that's still play, even though things have changed over the last 20 years, even the last 10 years, I think that still applies to the young pitching. And the Orioles don't have any real young pitching that they can really go to.
No, they don't. And I want to go back to Elias for a second, because this was just brought back into the limelight with the Royals in town last weekend, and Bobby Witt Jr., doing what he's been doing since he was drafted behind Adley Rutschman. And that looks like a big mistake right now on paper, and at least performance-wise. Plus, the Royals have already paid this guy, and they got him locked up long-term. It seems like they're ahead of the Orioles in that aspect.
Yeah. Well, and I'll go back, Jerry. I think you were, when I would come on the morning show there, the local radio show, and I would get asked a lot about that year. They had the number one pick. Who would you rather have? And I'd seen Bobby Witt the entire previous summer as a high schooler, but he was on the circuit, the showcase circuit. And now, the Orioles said that they didn't have a lot of the data on him. They should have, because he was playing in major league stadiums for a whole month. Like those are things that if you're gonna, there's a, they like to use. They're almost 100% data driven when it comes to a lot of their decisions. That comes with good and bad, right? But to me, it was clear, mostly because of the fact that he was an up the middle player, and I felt like he was going to be a major league hitter quickly. He's become better than I even thought, and like you said, they've signed him up long term. The thing about Adley is, I think he's still going to play well and perform well at that position. It's like, all right, but you're not playing him necessarily every day. He's not playing 155 games behind the plate. That's where, and the shelf life for catchers, as we've seen, is a lot shorter than it is middle infielder. So I think there were some, inherent issues there that concern me. I still think Adley's a really good player, but when are they going to sign him up long term, right? That to me is the other issue that we've talked about a lot, around Baltimore. Like, all right, well, you got to start looking at signing some of those guys, and Adley and Gunnar are the first two at least. And if Holiday keeps progressing like we think he's going to, he'd be a guy to consider maybe at the end of the year.
Yeah, let's hope they can sign some of their younger players. I want to change things a little bit, Jim, because you and I have had a long history together. Now, I was traded to the Mets, and of course, you were part of that incredible deal. I think maybe you go down in history as one of the greatest deals ever. And
of course.
But way before that, man, you used to be a player now, a really good player. And you and I played against each other, I think, back in 1986 at an all-star game. You were at Williams College. Do you remember anything about those times?
Well, first of all, before he answers, did you both have full sets of hair back then?
We did. We did. Well, it's funny, Jerry, Mike. So Mike was going through some things. I guess was it an old box of things that you found, and he found a program from a game at Fenway Park, 1986, and he was going through to see if he recognized any players, and he saw my name in there. And honestly, I thought that he and I played against each other in 1988. I played in that game in 86 and 88 from Division III school. And I think in 88, Turk Wendell, who was a buddy of mine from high school, we went to high school together, and he was a good major league relief pitcher. Yeah. He was a part of that game at Quinnipiac College. He went to up in Connecticut, and I'm pretty sure Jeff Bagwell was a part of that team.
Wow.
A part of that game, rather. So, and Charles Nagy, if you remember him as a starting pitcher out of UConn, he was a first rounder. So there's some pretty good talent that came up there in New England. But Bordick was the man back then, and he was the guy. He was the guy that you were trying to compete with, playing the position at shortstop, and we always said this too. And when I turned into the front office, like, if you could draft and sign a guy from New England, you felt, and he had the ability, felt like that they were going to grow as players, because most of their time in the winter was spent in the winter training inside. So when the time you got outside, the Southern teams played 30 games before we even had a chance to get outside and play. So and there's I always felt like there was a toughness for people who went to school up in New England, because you had to play in the snow half the time.
Perseverance, baby. Perseverance.
Right.
You got a great bloodline too. Your son, a great player. Of course, we know Dan Duquette, your cousin, went on to great things with the Red Sox, Expos, and obviously the Orioles. But don't you have a basketball side too in your family?
I do.
Brother Pat?
I do. My brother Pat is a Division I basketball coach up at UMass Lowell, the America East. He's been there now. He took the program they went from Division II to Division I status. I want to say now it's been 10 years. He's been there for 10 years. He was the America East Coach of the Year 2 years ago. They have had back-to-back 20-win seasons. This past year, they didn't get to 20. Maybe it's 18 or 19. So, yeah, he's had a ton of success. up there. I've enjoyed, it helps the winter pass watching him and his team. They come down to play UMBC here every year. They play them twice a year. When they come down here, we usually get a chance to see them. And I'll tell you what, the stories about the portal and the NIL stuff these days, it's very similar to professional baseball now, and the development of players and trying to follow them and scout them. If you don't get them as high schoolers, can you follow them, as freshmen and sophomores so that you can get them to transfer? Like the conversation that we've had is eerie about some of the things that we talk about in terms of evaluating athletes.
I bet.
Hey, Jim, the last question I have for you when you were back as a GM, and you probably talked about this recently on MLB radio, I saw that the Dodgers bent over backwards for their new Japanese acquisition, Sasaki. He wanted his own bidet inside the clubhouse, and instead of one, they installed 8 to the tune of $100 million. Have you ever had to bend over backwards for a certain player to accommodate that player? And you're free to name any names if you want.
Well,
it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Definitely wasn't Bordy. When we traded for Bordy, we knew that it was probably going to be a rental, 3-month rental, because the Orioles were going to try to sign him back as a free agent. They quickly did. The guys, it's funny because Miguel Tejada was very low maintenance when it came to anything. He was a high profile superstar player at the time. He really didn't want much. Piazza back in the day, he never really wanted one. The guy that had the most, I'd say, unique part of their contract outside of like the normal suite on the road and the suite at a ballpark was Carlos Beltran. And Beltran he wanted this high speed. Right now they have these high speed pitching machines, but he had this high speed tennis ball machine that was mobile, and we had to take it on the road. So we set it up in our cages there at Shea Stadium, and we had to take it on the road, and we had to hire a guy that was would feed the baseball. Like, that's probably the most unique part of the contract that I can remember. Nothing like this bidet stuff.
Did you try to take some of that off the top? Like, hey, we're making an investment here, and we'll just take that out of your contract to pay for this extra person.
Yeah.
Back then, it was always an add-on, and it still is. Like these agents are really good at what they do, and that's one of those requests, by the way, that come at the very end. You think you're done? Like, it just started. All the other ancillary stuff is at the end. Like, oh, you want a suite? Yeah, of course. Here you go. Oh, we want this guy who's going to blast tennis balls at 100 miles an hour, down the middle. That has to come too, or else you don't get the player. I'm like, okay, well, you can have whatever you want.
Yeah, they inform you of all this right as you're going into the press conference, too.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly it. I mean, at that point, you're so fed up. You're like, whatever you want, just here you go, take it. Yeah.
All right. Hey, Jim, you're probably fed up with us, but we appreciate the time. Thanks for being here this week. It's
all right.
A pleasure.
Thanks, Jim.
Appreciate you guys having me on. See you guys.
More of the Bmore Baseball Podcast coming right up.
What's Up, Doc is sponsored by the Baltimore Chamber Orchestra. Baltimore's second orchestra finishes its season with Mother's Day Mozart and Friends, featuring concertmaster Audrey Wright and guest conductor Norman Wynn on Sunday, May 11th at 3 p.m. in Goucher College's Kraushar Auditorium. Visit thebco.org to buy tickets and learn more. That's thebco.org for Mother's Day Mozart and Friends on Sunday, May 11th.
Take a swing at a healthier mouth and a better-looking smile with my dental team at Catonsville Dental Care. Catonsville Dental Care is a winning team of caring dental professionals who treat you like family. You will love their clean, friendly office, where your comfort and care are their top priorities. Catonsville Dental Care has more than 2,000 five-star Google reviews and received many awards, such as Top Dentist and Top Workplace. Catonsville Dental Care accepts most insurances and offers convenient hours, before or after work, and some Saturdays, too. Mention the Jerry Special for your $149 $99 new patient visit or receive $500 off your Invisalign treatment. So get off the bench. Call Catonsville Dental Care today. Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. At Heller Coates, we ensure peace of mind. Our mission, to educate, design, and protect, ensuring that you get the right insurance at the right price. Whether it's home and auto, life, disability, long-term care, or employee benefits, our deep understanding of personal and business life cycles allows us to tailor solutions just for you. We specialize in strategic insurance planning for those who value protection. Ready to take the next step? Get in touch for no-obligation 360 policy review at insurance@hellercoates.com. They say it all comes back to your roots, right? At Grassroots, high-quality cannabis is in their nature. From soil to soul, their passion for cannabis and community inspires everything they do. Try your favorite strains from their cultivar library of top-shelf flower, pre-rolls, and concentrates. Whether you're cheering from the stands or chanting for the O's at home, their crafted flower helps you curate the perfect game day. Ask for Grassroots Cannabis at your favorite dispensary in Maryland.
Jim Duquette from MLB Radio, former exec, one of the best, and lucky to have him here in the Baltimore area. And let's move on to For the Birds, Bordy, sponsored by our friends over at the Maryland Lottery. Playing the Maryland Lottery responsibly means knowing what's true and what's not about your favorite games. Learn the facts and the myths at mdlottery.com, and please play responsibly. Now, we just talked with Jim Duquette about the Orioles players showing support for Brandon Hyde, who's faced some scrutiny the last couple of weeks from the fan base especially. What does that say? That the players have his back? And then the GM subsequently did too.
Yeah. No, I think for sure the player is going to have his back. I think unless a manager goes out there and starts throwing players under the bus, they're going to have the players' support. And I think forever, since Brandon's been a part of the Orioles, he's always been a player's manager, and they've always talked highly of him. So, I think he's not like Ray Miller, who said, hey, go ask the guys in the clubhouse. They're making all the money. No, he's going to take responsibility. He's going to try to keep a positive clubhouse because he understands how fragile these young players' minds are, and he does not want to lose those guys. Keep them all on the same page and move them forward.
All right. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't follow up on that comment. When Ray Miller did say, go ask the guys in the clubhouse, they're making all the money. What was the reaction inside the clubhouse that you were a part of?
Yeah, not good. Not good. Ray, everybody loved Ray. Ray was one of the greatest pitching coaches of all time in Oriole history, but managing, sometimes the game speeds up a little bit, and he pushes the blame on the players, and I think that's when he kind of lost the clubhouse a little bit. It's a really tight ship in there, man, and it's fragile, and managers have to be careful about what they say. I just remember being a young player and coming up in Tony La Russa's clubhouse, and he said, if you say anything about our team negative in the media, I will bury you in the media. So be careful what you say. Stay away from them and always honor your teammates and the Oakland A's. And that's how he kind of kept things together, because as soon as one bad word gets out of the clubhouse, oh my gosh, there is a problem. And trust me, Jerry, reporters look for it. They want to hear something and then blame it on that. And I think the Orioles have been pretty good about keeping everything right there and trying to keep this positive thing moving forward.
Well, you say I know it. I mean, you're assuming that reporters go in there and try to bait some of the players or coaches or managers, and that's never been my intention, unless maybe it has been.
No, but it can happen, and it can happen quickly.
Yes, it can. I've seen it spiral out of control quickly. And what is spiraling out of control right now is the Orioles' inability to hit lefties. How do you solve this problem, Bordy? Is it solvable? I mean, I know Mayo was hitting lefties in the minors. I don't know if that's the complete end all to, making this work and how that will translate to the big leagues.
No, they can solve it. So this is what they're going to do. Over the offseason, they're going to go out and get a power hitting right-hander in O'Neill, who mashes lefties. They're going to get Sanchez, who historically has hit lefties, pretty well. They got Mayo in the wings, who, is going to mash lefties. And, the list goes on. Laureano has had success. Well, every guy has struggled this year against lefties. And a couple of them are on the IL. Sanchez and O'Neill, of course. But O'Neill, who was supposed to come in and do all this damage, I think is only like 2 for 21 against lefties. So it's just not happening right now. Listen, offense is ebb and flow. You'd hope one or two guys could get healthy and start, mashing against the lefty to kind of carry the team. But it just doesn't happen. And it wasn't too long ago where they were really good against lefties. So I think there are going to be ups and downs. I can only talk from my own personal experience. One year, I was the worst in the American League in hitting lefties. The next year, I was the best. I did not take a whole offseason and just work on hitting left-handed pitching. That's just the way the game works sometimes. And I think the Orioles are in a downtime, and I think they'll slowly start coming out of it. As soon as they start getting overall confidence and start believing in themselves again, I think this offense is going to get going. And I also think health is wealth, man. And as soon as healthy players start getting back into this lineup, everybody's going to feel better about this team.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it can get any worse, so we hope now, because below 200 is pretty bad.
Not good.
All right, it's time to go beyond Baltimore. Brought to you by Relief Shop, Baltimore's best adult use and medical cannabis dispensary with 700 plus unique items and home delivery available for medical patients only from Relief Shop. So a fan fell since the last time we talked. A fan fell. It was the right field stands from PNC Park in Pittsburgh. I first thought that he jumped in some sort of daredevil act, and we're not going to show the video or anything like that because he did a flip over the railing. And I don't know if you've ever seen anything like that in a Major League Baseball setting or even a minor league park, Bordy, but we had players taking a knee like we see in the NFL when a guy gets severely hurt on the field. It was a scary sight indeed.
No, absolutely. Listen, players appreciate and love the fans that come out and support them. And it's risky business being a fan. Some of the stadiums, man, the overhangs, everybody wants a ball. Everybody wants a foul ball. Everybody wants to cheer for their team. And sometimes there may be one or two too many adult beverages. And I'm not blaming it on that happened at PNC, but it can happen, man. I've been in stadiums. Just recently, I was at Camden Yards, and I'm not saying it's a dangerous place. It's a very safe stadium. But I was up in the suites and I was taking pictures and I leaned back on the rail and I was like, oh my gosh, I felt myself kind of falling back. It's not that high and you could lose balance. I've seen crazy things in stadiums, obviously injuries to players where you take a knee and you hope the best, but check this one out and see if you remember this. Back in 1997, this was a weird stadium incident. Down at Pro Player Stadium, the Orioles were taking on the Marlins. It was late in the season in 97 and the roof of the dugout. Okay, check this out now. Pro Player Stadium had people on top of the dugout cheering on the fans. Our whole team just went out on the field. Cal, Rafi, myself, Robbie, we run out on the field, and all of a sudden, we hear something. We turn around. The whole roof of the dugout collapsed into our dugout. Wow. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are there people under there? The whole dugout cleared out. As soon as we took the field, everybody went in the clubhouse. It was completely empty. Nobody got hurt except for the two people that were on top cheering. They had some minor injuries, but it could have been devastating. Can you imagine that if our team was in there?
Lawsuit, not to mention the number of injuries or maybe even worse. Yes.
Oh my gosh, crazy. So crazy things happens at stadiums. Just got to be aware of your surroundings. I don't know if anybody would have ever expected that, but certainly safety is an issue, and I think all fans have to watch out for it at the stadium.
Yeah, and we don't want to see you die taking a selfie like some of these morons who do it by cliffs or waterfalls or mountaintops like that. You know where I feel scared? Not down at the Inner Harbor. It's walking around the Inner Harbor at Harbor East where there's no barrier between you and that filthy water they have in there. I know but that's the last place I want to fall into. There should be a guardrail there, in my opinion.
Hey, I agree.
All right, let's get healthy. We bring in the good doctor, Dr. Michael Jacobs, the former Orioles team doc for 30 years. It's our What's Up Doc segment, and it's brought to you by the Baltimore Chamber Orchestra. Here, Baltimore Second Orchestra coming up at 3 p.m. They're performing Sunday, May the 11th at Goucher College. Visit thebco.org to buy tickets and learn more. Doc, thanks as always for the time. And I want to ask you about the Orioles injury situation because it's reached epic proportions. 13 players are on the IL, including 7 potential starting pitchers. During all your time with the Orioles, Doc, you ever see this rash of injuries happen so suddenly and so soon?
No, it's a bit unusual. There's no question. You got to remember, you got to subtract a couple of those people. The Bradish and Tyler had surgery last year, so they knew they'd be there, so they don't really count. And of course, I think there's some, traumatic injuries. You can't account for Cowser breaking the thumb, sliding into first base. That's just an unusual play. I don't know if Sanchez got hit in the wrist or not, but again, that could have been a traumatic injury. But pitching-wise, sure, there's a lot of injuries. We've discussed the rash of lat injuries this year among major leaguers all over. I think Minter, just tore his lat and is contemplating surgery. So in this world of analytics and data, I'm sure that our team and others are looking at their training programs and their conditioning and strength guys to see if there's something they've changed that may be making them more prone to it, or to see if there's something they can do to better protect them from these lat injuries. And again, sometimes that's where the analytics and the computer modeling gets in contrast to the traditional look at people's rotations. But I'm sure they're looking at the strength and conditioning guys to try to work on these lat injuries. And there's also been a rash of core injuries and the oblique injuries. I think somebody else just went down in the majors with an oblique. Are, again, a part of this continual search for high spin rates and more bat speed. So I think at some point, this relentless search for power is going to lead you to more of these power-seeking core injuries. And the problem with them is they can be very hard to treat because they just need time. And in the case of Eflin, it's really tricky because now that you have all these MRI scans, which are super sensitive, we traditionally did follow injury progression with, is your scan getting better? Because the scans tend to lag behind. If you're going to wait for that scan to be completely normal, he's going to miss half the season. So bringing somebody back like Eflin with an improving scan, which I am assuming the Orioles have, as compared to a normal scan, is going to be kind of artistic. So I think it's hard to figure, can Eflin come back and be 100%? Can he come back and be 98%? Is Eflin going to feel comfortable, saving that 110% pitch for the big out? Or is he going to feel like he could go at it? Since he's not a pure power pitcher and he's a sophisticated pitcher, I think he has an excellent chance of kind of walking that line. But nonetheless, Bordy, you can comment on, when you're not quite 100%, how do you protect yourself when you're coming back because you want to play, but you're a little leery of making that hard throw from the hole? How do you think the players view that from a pitching point of view?
Yeah, well, a couple things, Doc. First of all, great shirt representing Maine. I love it. The high education school too in Bowdoin. That's pretty impressive stuff.
If I could have gone into UMaine, I would have gone, but I did have the grades, so I had to go down to Bowdoin.
Let's go to you.
Or Burgoyne, as most people say. But go ahead. It's on for my 50th reunion, by the way, just to show you how old I am.
That's exciting. Well, congratulations. So that you made it that far, that's for sure. I want to stay on the topic of Eflin and this lat issue. Now, you got a veteran pitcher here, and he started his rehab process. How do you monitor him along the way? And does he go back in for an MRI to get the full clearance? I know you said there's a lag time, but how do they check on this, their potential ace? How do they follow up and make sure he is ready to go?
It's a work of art. That's one area where you can't just rely on analytics. So the pitcher, who's a veteran and very sophisticated person, and very nice person, by the way, he has to keep in touch with the training staff. You have a veteran training staff there, and your pitching coaches have to look at the video, I'm sure, to see if they think his motion is what it has always been, or if, as they parse through his video, if he's shortening up a little bit because he's a little leery. And with your lat injury, it's a lot about your extension and your release point. And as you know, with pitching, if these pitchers are not comfortable with their full extension and release, their ball doesn't move. So I think the analytics can help with that. But the role of MRIs has always been very dicey. We tended not to use them because we knew they wouldn't be normal beyond checking a scan partway along to see if things were improving. So I don't know what the Orioles have done. I am betting they've had several MRIs that show improvement, but you really have to match that up with the player's release and his full extension. The full extension is the whole deal here with these pitchers. And your lat helps you decelerate a little bit. And so they have to make sure that the pitching video and their analytics pitching people help that. Since we don't really have a true veteran Ray Miller type of pitching coach, our new age pitching people will probably rely somewhat on the video experience to make sure he's releasing. But it's really up to the pitcher. He has to say, I'm good to go and I can handle it. And we've had pitchers say, I'm just not ready, even though things look good. And then sometimes you get into this argument of, pitchers aren't as tough as they used to be. But that's not necessarily the case. The pitcher knows what he can do. And, he has to know he can make the ball move that extra 3 inches. So it's a very artistic process. But I think a player like Eflin, who's not a pure power pitcher, veteran, very smart, I think he's ideally the kind of pitcher who can handle that. But there's no guarantee under the stress of a full crowd late in, a critical position where he doesn't say, I'm going to really have to, get this baby up there and go that pitch too far. That's always a risk. And when you're suddenly a contending team versus a building team, that's a risk presumably they feel they have to take.
Dr. Michael Jacobs, brought to us every week by the Baltimore Chamber Orchestra. We appreciate it. We also thank all our sponsors. We truly appreciate the loyal support that they give us.
At Heller Coates, we ensure peace of mind. Our mission, to educate, design, and protect, ensuring that you get the right insurance at the right price. Whether it's home and auto, life, disability, long-term care, or employee benefits, our deep understanding of personal and business life cycles allows us to tailor solutions just for you. We specialize in strategic insurance planning for those who value protection. Ready to take the next step? Get in touch for no obligation 360 policy review at insurance@hellercoates.com. They say it all comes back to your roots, right? At Grassroots, high-quality cannabis is in their nature. From soil to soul, their passion for cannabis and community inspires everything they do. Try your favorite strains from their cultivar library of top-shelf flower, pre-rolls, and concentrates. Whether you're cheering from the stands or chanting for the O's at home, their crafted flower helps you curate the perfect game day. Ask for Grassroots Cannabis at your favorite dispensary in Maryland.
What's Up, Doc is sponsored by the Baltimore Chamber Orchestra. Baltimore's second orchestra finishes its season with Mother's Day Mozart and Friends, featuring concertmaster Audrey Wright and guest conductor Norman Wynn on Sunday, May 11th at 3 p.m. in Goucher College's Krauschar Auditorium. Visit thebco.org to buy tickets and learn more. That's thebco.org for Mother's Day Mozart and Friends on Sunday, May 11th.
Take a swing at a healthier mouth and a better-looking smile with my dental team at Catonsville Dental Care. Catonsville Dental Care is a winning team of caring dental professionals who treat you like family. You will love their clean, friendly office, where your comfort and care are their top priorities. Catonsville Dental Care has more than 2,000 five-star Google reviews and received many awards, such as Top Dentist and Top Workplace. Catonsville Dental Care accepts most insurances and offers convenient hours, before or after work, and some Saturdays, too. Mention the Jerry Special for your $149 new patient visit, or receive $500 off your Invisalign treatment. So get off the bench. Call Catonsville Dental Care today.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you, too, if you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery. You could win instantly, or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every grand slam. Sounds like a ball if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com. It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer, or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone, exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955, proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
And we have a major exclusive interview announcement coming up for later this month. Not prepared to release it just yet, Bordy, but it's in the works, and I think every Baltimore sports fan will want to see it. We also want to thank senior executive producer Chip Franklin for putting this latest episode together. Chip is a big red wine fan, and he wears it very well. Until next time, be real, be kind, and make sure to be back for another episode. It's the Bmore Baseball Podcast.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.